Hello and Happy New Year to all of you from me, Steve Smith. Look up, this is our 2024 January skies. Well, that's another orbit of our sun completed. We can now look forward to the lovely long stretch of dark nights leading up to spring. I compile the monthly Looking Up articles in the EAs to inform members about the many changing objects that come around each month. In the past, before I got organised, I have rushed outside excited because the sky looks very promising. Set up my scope, looked up at the sky and thought, what am I going to look at? And I have ended up looking at the stuff I've already seen before with nothing new to get wowed about. I have learnt from others and from experience that it is important to plan ahead and have a list of objects ready for when an observing opportunity presents itself. I research what's currently available and include a lot of stuff I've never seen before. But this stuff is achievable with the astro gear I have, like scopes, lenses and filters, etc. These objects will probably include NGC or messier objects such as galaxies, open star clusters, globular clusters and nebulae. The planets and moon do their own thing, so you need to see what's up there at the time you want to observe. You can cherry pick targets from my monthly Looking Up article, or magazines like Astronomy Now, or use apps like Sky Safari. There's always plenty to see, if you are aware of what is currently up there. If you do have a successful observing session, had a few wow moments, then write an account of the session, giving details of what you have seen and any thoughts that occurred to you while observing the objects. It is good to be able to look back on these sessions and maybe also share your observations with others too. Why not send in a report to the Society's Event Horizon magazine to share with like-minded fellow members? I'm sure they'd be most interested to read all about it. So, what can we look forward to this year? Well, for me, in a month or so, the return of the fabulous spring galaxies lying in Virgo and Coma Berenices come to mind. They bring wow sights like the amazing arc of galaxies known as Markarian's chain. Also the Leo triplet of galaxies M65, M66 and NGC 3628. Again in Leo lie another trio of my favourite galaxies. They are M95, M96 and M105. Sometimes you can get 2 or even 3 of these galaxies in your field of view. And then it is amazing to think that these grey fuzzy smudges each contain billions of stars. I will be mentioning these objects and these sites in more detail over the next few Looking Up articles leading up to Easter. Also in the spring, Ursa Major, the Plough. It will be in a very favourable position in the night sky. So it's well-known objects like the Owl Nebula, which is M97, Bode's galaxies, M81 and M82, and the adjacent Whirlpool galaxy, M51, are in prime position for observing. Looking even further ahead, I also look forward to summer's fabulous summer triangle, which contains the Ring Nebula, M57, the Dumbbell Nebula, M27, and the Kotanga asterism, double star Albireo, and the Milky Way background. And later this year, mighty Jupiter is going to blaze away at its highest elevation in years, promising some great conditions for observing. So, back to now. What are January's highlights? There are loads of astro treats on show at this time of year. Jupiter shines brilliantly in the evening sky all month with a magnitude of -2.64 at the start and fading to -2.42 by the end of month. And Mercury joins Venus in the pre-dawn sky. You may have noted just how high above the horizon the ecliptic lies at this time of year, which is great for planet viewing too. Orion is still available to us, and this whole area is just bursting with interesting objects. Also, Gemini is up there in the southern sky, and Leo and Virgo are becoming available to us in the early mornings too. Deep sky on show. As always, last month's items are still around. At opposition on the ecliptic during January is the constellation of Gemini, the twins, starring the unmistakable Castor and Pollux. Gemini lies in the northern Milky Way and is rich in open clusters and nebulae and a massive background of stars. Messier 35 is an open cluster that can be seen with the naked eye near the 3 football stars of Gemini, it contains over 100 stars of around 6th magnitude. The fainter cluster, NGC 2158, can also be seen in the same field of view as M35. The Eskimo Nebula, you've probably heard of it, is reckoned to be the finest planetary nebula in our winter sky. It is a 9th magnitude planetary nebula and can be seen quite well, even with a moderately sized scope of 3 inches or so. A larger scope will reveal lots more detail. Moving elsewhere and outside Gemini, there are simply loads of objects. For example, Auriga is one of winter's signature constellations. There's an image in the EH showing you what's in there. It is positioned high above Orion and Taurus and contains a handful of deep sky objects well worth a look, including 3 Messier objects, a few NGCs and 2 IC objects. The dazzling jewel in Auriga is the yellowish star Capella. It is the 6th brightest star in the sky, shining at magnitude plus 0.08, and is a circumpolar object, meaning it never drops below the horizon from our vantage point here in Britain. During the summer months, it skims along just above the northern horizon and often has us wondering, what star is that over there? However, during the winter, it resides at a much higher elevation along with the rest of the constellation of Auriga. Capella lies just 43 light years away from us, and it's a famous close binary consisting of similar first magnitude Class G giants orbiting around a common centre of gravity every 104 days. M37 is the brightest open cluster in Auriga, and it's considered to be one of the finest in the sky. M37 has a total magnitude of plus 6.2 and is also the richest of the 3 Messier clusters in Auriga. Messier 36 is one of the best in its class of open clusters in the northern sky. Hard to see with the unaided eye, it is easily found using binoculars. It lies between M37 and M38, looking like a foggy patch. The emission nebula IC405 is also known as Cobalt 31 and the Flaming Star Nebula. It is an outstanding emission nebula that is ranked one of the best our winter has to offer. It is located near and illuminated by the variable star AE Aurigae. Interestingly, the proper motion of this illuminating star AE Aurigae can be traced back to the area of Orion's belt, where AE Aurigae's story is linked to another star, Mu Columbae. And this is what happened. Around 2.7 million years ago, these two stars had a close encounter with one another in the Great Orion Nebula. The encounter was so close that both were ejected from the Orion complex. Currently, these stars are 66 degrees away from each other in the sky, but AE Auriga is certainly the more glamorous of the pair, since it just happens to be moving through a region of gas and dust that makes it look like a flaming star, hence the name. Messier 38 is the faintest of the 3 Messier open clusters in the southern part of Auriga. NGC 1931 is a mixed nebulosity and cluster lying close to M38. The entire cluster nebula complex appears only 3 arc minutes across. At its centre are 4 stars in a trapezium-like configuration. For this reason, NGC 1931 has been referred to as a miniature version of the Orion Nebula, with the trapezium-like stars in the middle. Also, just next door to Orion lies Monoceros, the unicorn, and it contains several deep sky goodies. Goodies like NGC 2346. It's a nice but challenging planetary nebula at 11th magnitude, but it lies over 3,000 light years from our system. The Christmas tree cluster, NGC 2264, is a fine 4th magnitude open cluster visible in binoculars and scopes, and also makes a good target for images. On a dark night, armed with at least a 10-inch scope, you should be able to tease out the Cone Nebula against the faint nebulosity that permeates the Christmas tree cluster. Messier 50 is an open cluster of stars in the constellation of Monoceros. It is sometimes described as a heart-shaped figure or a blunt arrowhead. And there's lots more information about this in the EH. Beta Monoceratis is one of the best triple star systems in the entire sky. Try saying that after you've had a few drinks. Lying roughly halfway between Procyon and Rigel, at magnitude plus 3.9, Beta Mon is the brightest star in Monoceros. However, B Mon is a triple star. The triple system consists of 3 equally bright stars. The 3 stars are lettered from east: B Mon A, B Mon B, and B Mon C. They have magnitudes of plus 4, plus 5, and plus 5, respectively. At low powers, the star system may appear as a double, but at higher powers, you should resolve B Mon into a triple star. So that's quite interesting. There's so many doubles and triples up there. There are many more details about these areas in the E8 is looking up, so I won't go into any further details. Just don't get me talking about astronomy. Again, it will be good to hear from you about any observation or sessions you may have had, or we can have a chat about any of this stuff when we are up at the Obs on any wonderful Wednesday, etc. So, are you now ready for looking up? This is Steve Smith wishing you all clear skies and lots of wow moments. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye. Yeah.
Thank you for listening to your January episode of the Obscast. Here are a few dates for you to remember for January. We have an open day on the 20th of January, so get in touch with Brendan Schooler if you want to volunteer for that at all. And on the 30th of January, we have Professor Andrew Blaine of the University of Leicester giving a talk on WISE and very luminous galaxies, galaxy formation in the infrared. Thank you very much for listening to the Obscast. Thank you very much to Steve for another great look-up section, and thank you very much to you for listening to the Obscast. We will see you soon for your February edition.